There's a quiet shift happening right now, and most people don't even realize they're already behind. Not because they lack tools, not because they lack ideas, but because they're playing the wrong game entirely. In 2026, something fundamentally changed. The barrier to creating content didn't just drop, it disappeared. You no longer need a camera, lighting setup, editing team, or even a real person in front of the lens. Entire influencer brands can now be built from a laptop. And yet, almost everyone attempting this is stuck. Accounts launch, content gets uploaded, a few views come in, and then nothing. No traction, no momentum, just silence. So what's going wrong? If the tools are powerful and the process seems simple, why are so many people failing at something that looks this easy? Because what you're seeing on the surface is misleading. This isn't about generating content. It's about engineering perception. And those are two completely different disciplines. The misleading simplicity. At first glance, the process looks almost laughably straightforward. Generate an AI face, attach it to a video, upload, that's it. And technically, yes, that works. You will get a video, you will have an AI influencer. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one emphasizes. That process creates output, not influence. And influence is the only thing that actually matters. Because platforms don't reward effort, they reward retention, they reward watch time, they reward emotional engagement. And none of those come from simply stitching assets together. So before anything else, pause for a second and ask yourself something honestly. Are you trying to produce videos, or are you trying to build something people recognize? Because one scales, the other disappears. Identity before tools. Most creators rush straight into tools. They experiment with prompts, generate dozens of faces, tweak lighting, adjust angles, and they think they're making progress, but they're skipping the one layer that determines everything else. Identity. An influencer is not a face, it's a pattern, a repeatable, recognizable, emotionally consistent presence. If your AI character looks slightly different in every video, if the vibe shifts every time, if the aesthetic resets constantly, then you don't have an influencer, you have noise, and noise gets ignored. So instead of asking, how do I generate a realistic face? A better question would be, how do I make this character feel like the same person every single time? Because consistency builds familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. Without that, nothing else works. Movement isn't just movement. Now let's talk about motion, the part most people copy without thinking. Scrolling through platforms, you'll see trending clips everywhere. Smooth camera movements, perfect angles, engaging energy. So naturally, people download those clips and try to replicate them. It feels efficient, it feels smart. But it's also where things start to collapse, because copying motion without understanding it creates content that blends in instantly. You're not creating something recognizable, you're recreating something replaceable. And in a system driven by algorithms, replaceable content is invisible. So instead of copying videos, shift your perspective. Break them down. What makes that clip engaging? Is it the pacing, the camera angle, the rhythm of movement, the emotional tone? Extract those elements, then rebuild them through your character. Because when you understand motion instead of copying it, you gain control. And control is what creates distinction. Control versus automation. This is where beginners make their biggest mistake. They want speed, they want volume, so they automate everything. Faces, generated automatically. Videos, generated automatically. Uploads, scheduled automatically. At first it feels productive, content is flowing, things are moving. But something subtle starts to happen. Everything begins to look the same, not just your content, everyone's content. Because when you remove human direction, you remove variation. And when variation disappears, so does attention. Platforms are evolving fast. They're no longer just analyzing visuals, they're analyzing patterns, repetition, predictability, lack of originality. And when your content falls into that pattern, growth doesn't just slow down, it stops. So the real question becomes, are you using AI to enhance your creativity, or are you replacing creativity entirely? Because that choice determines whether you build something scalable or something disposable. The illusion of completion. Let's say you do everything right technically. You create a strong character. You apply motion correctly. You generate a clean, high-quality video. At this point, it feels like you're done. But you're not. Because what you have now is a product, and products don't grow, stories do. This is the layer almost everyone ignores. Why does this video exist? What is the viewer supposed to feel? What keeps them watching past the first few seconds? Because without answers to those questions, your content becomes background noise. It might look good, it might even feel polished, but it won't hold attention. And without attention, there is no growth. Narrative is the real engine. Think about the content you personally watch till the end. It's not random. There's always something pulling you forward. Curiosity, tension, a question that hasn't been answered yet. That's narrative. And it's what transforms visuals into experiences. Your AI influencer doesn't just need to exist. It needs to do something. Maybe it's telling micro stories. Maybe it's reacting to situations. Maybe it's building a persona people want to follow. But there has to be a reason to watch. Otherwise, no matter how advanced your tools are, the result will feel empty. The hidden trap of scaling. Too early. Here's where things get even more interesting. A lot of creators, once they figure out the basics, try to scale immediately. More videos, more variations, more uploads. But scaling a weak system doesn't create success. It amplifies failure. If your foundation isn't strong, if your identity isn't clear, if your narrative isn't engaging, then producing more content just spreads that weakness faster. And eventually, you hit a wall. Low engagement, flat growth, no monetization, and the confusion begins. Why isn't this working? But the answer was there from the start. Because growth doesn't come from volume. It comes from clarity. Designing instead of generating. So what actually works? A shift in mindset. From generating content to designing experiences. Start treating your AI influencer like a real brand. Give it structure. Give it direction. Give it boundaries. What niche does it belong to? What tone does it carry? What type of content does it consistently produce? Because once those elements are defined, everything becomes easier. Decisions become faster. Content becomes sharper. And most importantly, your audience starts recognizing you. And recognition is where growth begins. A question that changes everything. Here's something most people avoid asking. If someone saw your content without your username, would they still know it's yours? Would the style feel familiar? Would the identity be clear? Or would it blend into the endless stream of similar videos? Because that answer reveals everything. It tells you whether you're building something distinct or just participating in noise. The reality, most people miss AI influencers aren't some distant future concept. They're already here. They're growing. They're monetizing. They're influencing real audiences. But the gap between those who succeed and those who fail is widening fast. And it's not because of tools. Everyone has access to those. It's because of understanding. The ones who win don't just use AI. They direct it. They shape it. They control how it's perceived, while everyone else just generates. So where does that leave you? At a crossroads. You can follow the easy path. Automate everything. Push out content. Hope something works. Or you can take a more deliberate approach. Slow down. Design properly. Build something that feels intentional. Because in a world where content is infinite, attention is not. And attention always moves toward what feels real, even if it's not. The real power of this space isn't in replacing humans. It's in understanding them, what they notice, what they trust, what they choose to keep watching. Because the more advanced technology becomes, the more valuable human perception gets. And the creators who understand that are the ones who rise above the noise. Now think about this for a moment. If everyone has access to the same tools, why do only a few accounts actually grow? What are they doing differently that others aren't even noticing? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious to see how you're thinking about this. And if this breakdown gave you a clearer perspective, make sure to like, share it with someone who's trying to enter this space, and subscribe for more content that goes beyond surface level tactics. Because the difference isn't in what you create, it's in how you think about creating it.